good.
Well, that sounds good. And that kids thing will keep me occupied too.
All right, I'm gonna go sign in so we can start just a minute.
Perfect.
Okay. So Telka signing in now. We've already got Monica here.
Okay, awesome. Just let me know, let people trickle in, and just let me know when you want me to get started.
We'll give Telka 1 second here.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, good.
Hey there.
All right, so are we ready to begin?
Sure. I didn't know if you wanted to start now or give another minute or two if anyone else was expected to jump on.
Well, I sent out, it's posted on our website, and I sent out reminders to everybody. So
Okay.
a lot of times people know that we're going to try and record things to post it on our website. So
Okay.
I'll go ahead and start. I'd like to introduce Matthew Liciano, who's with Ask an Adjuster, to speak on hurricane preparedness. Because everybody knows in Florida, we have our peak season coming up, and predictions are high at this point with the number of hurricanes that they're preparing for. So Matthew, if you can have the floor.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for having us. We certainly appreciate not only the relationship with Associate Management, but also the communities that they serve. And I believe Chris is a member of your community. So we certainly are thankful and appreciative of the chance to meet with you all this evening. Thanks for taking the time to sit in on this presentation. And really, we're very passionate about education, not only for our clients, but for the communities that we serve. Being that one of the major sources of damage and devastation in the state of Florida is caused by hurricanes, we wanted to provide you all with some great information that can be used for your individual homes and communities. I do have some information on Ask an Adjuster that we'll share towards the end. In the meantime, I'll jump right on in with hurricane season. So it is hurricane season. For those of you who don't know, we have been in hurricane season for a couple of months now, since June. And we actually have already had 5 storms. We've had Arlene, Brett, Cindy, and Dawn. And then actually earlier this year, we had one unnamed storm. Looking at projections, we are fairly on track to meet the average amount of storms that we've experienced in the last 30 years. But what we have noticed is an increase in the number of named storms and the severity. So while we're pretty average with major hurricanes and hurricanes on general, we are noticing an uptick in the number of named storms and also in some of their severities. This is a map of the 2022 hurricane impacts from the storm Ian. Our state was completely blanketed with 2 hurricanes, one being a very major hurricane, hurricane level 5, Hurricane Ian. As you can see, the entire state was impacted with wind damage significant enough to cause damage to our properties and communities. There's not anywhere in the state of Florida that was not impacted. And this speaks to the severity and the scope of damage that can be caused when a hurricane ravishes our state, especially when it crosses the state. Its impacts are typically broad and impactful throughout most of our region. Just so you know, probably around 40 to 50 mile per hour winds can start to cause damage to our physical homes and structures. And so even though the storm may make impact on a particular side or region of the state, its impacts are felt well throughout the state. So with that being said, are you prepared for hurricane season? Some of the things that you and your home or your communities can do to get prepared for hurricanes is making sure that your prescriptions, medical supplies, etc., are all up to date, being mindful of medical conditions, allergies, etc., making sure that you have everything prepared at your home. Should you not be able to access your home for a couple of weeks due to having to evacuate, or just due to delays at stores and production, you'd want to make sure that you have your essentials. So health is definitely first and foremost. Make sure you have all of your health needs taken care of and lined up. Any information for your medical devices, your prescriptions, etc. Make sure those are all lined up. Some other things that are important to have during an emergency, especially if the power goes out, batteries, flashlights, a radio, or some sort of video or audio device where we can hear weather reports, storm reports, and emergency reports. Cash is important to have, or some sort of means of having finances. If an ATM is down or a bank is not open, you would want to make sure that you have cash handy to pay for any essentials. Chargers will often go out during storms, especially if the power's out. So having some sort of backup device or, for example, a solar charger or some other means of charging your mobile devices for communications. And then, of course, some things that may help keep us, our minds or our families entertained, such as books, games, puzzles, or other activities. Keep in mind during an emergency or a hurricane or state of an emergency, power may go down. You may not have access to laundry facilities right away. So making sure that you have clean clothes, etc., is very helpful. Phone numbers for emergency contacts, schools, doctors, vets, etc. Very important to keep handy. Landlords, tenants, etc. So for some of the more fun stuff, definitely want to make sure that in the state of an emergency, you have your documentation handy. Aside from any insurance cards or paperwork, you want to make sure that you have your most recent policy up to date and handy. In the event of a storm, you want to make sure you have that handy. Any medical records, financial or banking information that you will need accessible, or financials would be helpful to have. If you have to evacuate or leave your home, should you need copies of a birth certificate, social, etc., making sure you're having all of your personal identification handy. Should you get stopped, should you have to go stay somewhere temporarily, or have another need for your personal documentation. With that being said, keeping that as well for pets and service animals. Keep your vehicle full with gas and in a safe place. A lot of times during a state of an emergency or storm, there's shortages on fuel or there are backups to get fuel. Some of the other things that you want to be mindful of during an emergency or hurricane are first aid. I'm not going to list through all of the first aid items, but it will be very important during an emergency or hurricane to make sure that you have all of the items that you feel will be necessary to assist during an emergency situation, whether that be some sort of antibiotic or Band-Aids or etc. Stock up on food and water, non-perishables, bottled water, drinking water, as well as water for plumbing for when you return to your toilets and showers. Paper products in the event you're not able to use clean drinking water or potable water for washing dishes or dishwashing. It will be important to have utensils, plates, etc. And then we always never forget about our pets. So making sure that our pets have enough food, water, all of their identification, as well as a safety kennel and any other supplies or services or medications that they would need to get through the storm. So what are some things that we can do preparing for the storm? Well, number one, make sure that you want to protect your home. Your home is your biggest investment and your probably greatest asset. So we definitely want to make sure that it's protected in the event of a hurricane or a storm. Some ways that you can do that are by protecting the building envelope. Windows are a structural element. They're fragile. They're usually made of glass and thus can be impacted and damaged during high winds. They can also be hit by projectile debris and damaged or cracked or shattered that way. So it's very much encouraged to protect your windows and sliding doors during a storm, whether through panels, wood, taping them, etc. The most important thing is to make sure that your home is protected. Oftentimes, folks will also use sandbags, etc., to protect the ground level from any rising water coming in through sliding doors or front doors and entryways, etc. Any straps to help secure down carports or roofing structures, etc. You'll want to make sure that those are tightly secured so that your home and your structure is tied down and secured. Take a look at the exterior of your property. If you have any tree limbs that need to be trimmed or may be in jeopardy of falling or breaking, you may want to maintain those before the storm. Any debris that could potentially blow into your home and cause damage, you'd want to pick up and move to safety, such as a garage or an interior room, whether that be patio furniture, garage cans, decorations, home decor, etc. You'll want to make sure you get anything that could be a projectile inside to protect your home, and especially the windows. Reinforcing garage doors can also be advantageous. Again, making sure doors, windows are all secure, and then sandbags can help prevent rising groundwater from entering your home. All right, preparing for the storm, and especially when it comes to electrical or electronic devices, some reminders, make sure all your electronic devices are charged and stored. Anything that's electrical, you may want to move away from the ground level in case there's any leaks from the ceiling or rising groundwater. You'd want to avoid any electrical hazard. And then turn off any breakers, circuit breakers, surge protectors, etc., to prevent any power surges from any electronics plugged into the wall. Obviously, it's important to stay inside or in a safe room during a hurricane, and definitely away from windows, again, to avoid any damages or injury from broken windows or projectiles. Avoid operating a generator inside of the property, and never connect a generator directly to your home unless a transfer of power switch has been installed properly. And another electrical reminder, make sure to use GFCIs in areas, especially where there might be water and electricity coming into contact with each other. And that's just for fire safety, electrical safety. When you've recovered from the storm, do not use electrical equipment that has been wet or submerged in water to protect, the safety of person. If you have any concerns about electrical or property damages, have them inspected by the proper professionals, and stay away from any down power lines or active power lines that you may observe. A lot of questions come up about swimming pools and what to do with pools during a hurricane. For one, don't empty the pool. Anything that falls into the pool is going to be much easier to take out with water in the pool than if there's not water in the pool. Gravity is no joke. So keep your pool full of water. You're going to avoid debris getting stuck in there that you wouldn't be able to get out, as well as, for example, potentially animals and other damages that could get into the pool, and you'll have a hard time getting out without water. Turn the power off to the pool system to protect the electrical and the pool equipment from getting singed with lightning or damaged by the storm. Any loose items removed from the pool. Feel free to add some extra chlorine to help with the cleaning and the cleansing. Covering the pool is not necessary, but you should protect, your fence, enclosures, and etc. From any debris or threat of blown debris or projectiles. All right, what should you do with your car during a hurricane? Number one, you probably want to find a safe spot to park your car. And you probably want to park your car somewhere that it's going to be protected from the elements, from falling objects, as well as probably a higher elevation where it's not going to get submerged underwater. Make sure you have all of your vehicle and car information stored safely and accessible should you need to access it. It's also a good idea to ensure that you have a full tank of gas should you have to communicate somewhere. And then, of course, just making sure overall your vehicle is protected from falling objects, debris, projectile, and other damages from the storm. What are some things that you could do for the property before the hurricane? Number one, we definitely encourage having your property inspected. We have a priority inspection program, and we definitely recommend getting in contact with us to get on that. But you can reach out to us at any point in the year. We offer free inspections, and essentially what we'll look at is the full home envelope, exterior and interior. We'll look at your insurance policy, make sure you have the best policy and coverage for your home before the event happens. Anything that is detrimental to you or your home would be good to know before the storm happens. So, for example, a lot of times enclosures are excluded from hurricane damage. That would be good to know before the hurricane happens, so you have a chance to get with your insurance or your agent and have that endorsed or added. And that's just one example, but there's many. Fences are another example that can sometimes be excluded if you have hurricane damage. So the time to know what's in your policy is not after the damage occurs, because you can't do anything about it after the fact. The best time to find out what's in your policy is before a hurricane or before the storm occurs. So we definitely recommend getting in touch with us to go over your policy with you and do that free inspection. What we'll do is issue your home or your community a certificate of good condition to show that there's no damages. This way, after the storm passes, anything that's present is claimable and observable, and they cannot try to say is a lack of maintenance, wear and tear, or it cannot be blamed on a prior storm. In other words, from this date moving forward, we've established that your home is in good condition. Therefore, any new damage is new and the insurance owes for it. What we found after Hurricane Ian and after Nicole, all of our communities and all of our homeowners who had certificates on file, their claims were paid within 30 to 60 days and fully paid. And that is simply because we had a certificate of good condition on file with tons and tons of pictures to show that, hey, we were out here before the storm and this damage was not there. So it makes it that much easier to settle the claim once the claim is filed if you have the photos, documentation, and the certificate of good condition on file. It's also going to help ensure that no damages are missed and that you're fully aware of everything in your policy. You'll have a chance to correct it before the damage occurs, and your home is going to be fully protected. If we do find anything, we can bring it to your attention to have it addressed. Damages can occur as early as a Category 1 hurricane, and the scale goes through 1 through 5, obviously escalating in terms of the severity of the damage, predominantly scaled by the wind factors, starting at 74 miles per hour at a Category 1, ranging to 159 miles per hour plus Category 5. Hurricane Ian was a Category 5 storm when it impacted Florida, and the impacts were between Category 1 and 3 as it swept through Central Florida. Everywhere in the state has damage. When a hurricane occurs, you're going to have damage whether it's a severe storm or a minor storm. The question is simply going to be to what extent. This illustration is going to show the different types of severity levels that can potentially occur. Obviously, with a stronger storm, we can anticipate greater severity of damage. With a more minor storm, we have lesser severity. But at the end of the day, when a hurricane occurs, it's causing damage to our homes. And if you have damage to your home and it can be claimed and paid for under the insurance, would you want that check? Absolutely. We want our check. We want to fix our homes and our communities and put it back to the way they were before the storm occurred. Whether you have minor damage or significant damage, damage is damage. And oftentimes people are not always aware of the extent of the damage without getting it fully inspected. So even in a minor storm, I definitely recommend having your homes or communities inspected. Our company uses thermal imaging, moisture mapping. We can find damage that is not necessarily observable to the eye. You may look like it has minimal damage on the roof, but then you may have water damage to underlayment, decking, damage in the attic. And sometimes we just don't know what we don't know. So let the trained experts identify all of the damage, quantify it for you, and work on your behalf to get your claim paid when you have damage.
Honey,
Hurricane season is, yes, ma'am.
sorry, that was me.
Oh, yes, sir.
The dog was barking.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we're still in the middle of hurricane season. If anything, it's just starting to heat up. I'm sure you guys have noticed how hot and warm it is outside. For hurricane season, we're just getting warmed up. End of August, September is peak hurricane season. So if there is any activity, we would be expecting those major storms or some more named storms over the next month and a half. So with that being said, if you have any communities or if you have a home that you would like just to have a clean bill of health, for your file, for your records before anything happens. I definitely encourage having us come out before any hurricane occurs. Sometimes there's a need to evacuate in the event of a hurricane, especially depending on the severity or the location of where we live. It's very important to know your evacuation zone. Have that plan in place before the hurricane occurs. Know potentially which locations you may be commuting to, how you're going to commute there. When will you leave, when you're going to come back, paying attention to the advisories, and so on and so forth. If you're in a flood zone, if you're out of a flood zone, how are you going to get to safety? Making sure that you have those plans in place, identifying where you're going to go and how you're going to get there is very important to identify before the storm. This way you're not trapped when the storm occurs. Some more notes on evacuation zones. Make sure you're timing your communications. Some areas are more heavily populated or higher trafficked or less routes in and out. So certainly plan ahead for traffic, volume, population. Keep in mind food, gas, medical supplies, facilities for cleaning and sanitation, etc. Those are all going to be factors to keep in mind when planning for a storm, evacuating, and returning from a storm. Some reminders, making sure your gas tank is full, you have all of your paperwork, identification, and documents, making sure you're stocked with essential supplies, water, food, cash, medical supplies, sanitation, etc. Following the law, especially during a state of an emergency, sometimes traffic signs will change or commute routes will change. Just make sure you're paying attention to law enforcement, evacuation routes, etc. And then obviously, if there's a life-threatening emergency or something that needs medical attention, you'd want to contact 911 for emergency. Some things that we see during storms, a lot of times folks will try to price gouge. It is unlawful, so that is illegal. Certainly report it if it's something that you're seeing, but definitely no one has a right to charge more for their product just because it's a state of an emergency, and that's a statutory protection. So let's say a storm has passed and you're wondering, well, is it okay to come home? How do you determine if it's safe to come home and when is safe to return? Definitely always follow the instructions of your local officials, your government, health and safety advisories, etc. When you return to your home, if you've had to evacuate, there's probably going to be some cleanup. Make sure to be careful. Protective clothing or equipment such as gloves, face masks, or etc. can help. Definitely avoid children being in those areas or anyone with medical conditions or breathing conditions, especially where there's debris. There's probably water contaminations and other sorts of contaminations or airborne dusts and debris that are probably not good for anyone with medical conditions, breathing conditions, or kids. Also for safety, nails, glass, other damages. What we found in Florida is it takes a village, right? We don't clean up alone. We don't go through the storm alone. We certainly don't clean up alone. So definitely work together with your friends, families, neighbors as a collaboration to get done what needs to get done. At the end of the day, we're a big family. We're a big team. So whoever you need to involve or engage to help you during your time of need, whether that be your friends and family, your association, your board, even your vendors. That's what we're here for. We're here to serve you and help protect your homes and properties and get them back into the condition that they were before the storm happened. Be careful of electrical equipment, especially if it was wet. We want to avoid any fire and electrical hazards. And be careful of flood water. Flood water can often contain harmful contaminants, and we want to make sure that folks stay healthy and clean during a state of an emergency. So best to avoid wading in any flood water that may contain bacteria, pathogens, etc. Save your phone battery and other batteries and other electronic devices for work communications, emergency communications, checking in on loved ones, and etc. Phone systems will often go down, electrical lines, phone lines will often go down, so it's best to use your devices for essential communications. And then one of the things that I definitely recommend, and this is actually before any storm, period, before the storm even occurs, and when you get home, obviously document all of your damage. But one of the things that I do personally at my own home before any hurricane is I go around, I start on the outside, and then I go around on the inside and I take pictures of the entire home. And this is documenting for me what my home looked like before the storm passes. And this way, if a gutter gets damaged, a window's broken, the roof is damaged, I have pictures that show it wasn't damaged prior. Same thing with the interior. I'll go around my interior and I'll just take some overview pictures of all my rooms and ceilings to show that there's no leaks or damages. And then I will open up closets, drawers, take pictures of things that are personal property. Because let's say a tree limb falls through the middle of the roof and rain comes pouring in. Well, now I have pictures of the condition of all my items, furniture, couch, uh, dining table, before any damage occurred. So documenting your home before the damage occurs and after is going to put you in one of the best positions for your claim. That is something that we do as a courtesy for all of our clients, whether they're an association, board, HOA, COA. We do it every day. It's a free inspection. We will give you a certificate of good condition at the end of the inspection. We have all the photos for the file. Again, I do it for my own personal home and my family's home. You're welcome to take photos before and after any storm at your own home. But I definitely recommend taking advantage of our certificate as well and our report, because that's some solid information. So with that being said, and kind of who are we and what are we, how are we able to, present to you today, talk about hurricanes, talk about damage, what to do, what not to do. Well, we're the largest public adjusting firm in the state of Florida. Ask an Adjuster has been around for 16, 17 years. As public adjusters, we are licensed and appointed through the state of Florida, and we're the only type of an adjuster that can work directly for you or your community. We do not work for any insurance company or any insurance companies or agents. We are licensed through the state to be your representative, your adjuster on your claim. When a claim is filed, the insurance company appoints their adjusters, their engineers, their consultants. Who's on your side? At Ask an Adjuster, we represent you and we're on your side when you have damage. The proof is in the pudding. Over the last 16, 17 years, we've recovered over $1 billion for our homeowners and COAs and HOA communities so that residents can fix their homes after they're damaged. And it all starts with a free inspection and evaluation of your policy, or if you've already filed an evaluation of your existing claim documentation. We've assisted over 30,000 Florida residents in the state of Florida over the last 17 years, and thousands more following Hurricanes Ian and Nicole. Ask an Adjuster was founded back in 2006, and that's our owner right there, Mr. Kevin Downs. Again, we've delivered over $1 billion to our clients, and that's homeowners, businesses, HOAs, COAs. And as the largest public adjusting firm in the state, we have the tools, the resources, and the abilities to navigate your claim and get you the highest success rate that you'll find in the industry. We handle any sort of claim, residential, commercial, business, and really we're your advocate to ensure you're paid your maximum and full claim benefits under your policy when you have an insurable loss. Oftentimes, we're able to help folks avoid out-of-pocket expenses, special assessments, or out-of-pocket repairs when they're able to claim their damages using their policy. I think a lot of people would agree that insurance really only has value if you can use it or get something out of it. For years, we put so much money into insurance. Some folks have been paying premiums for 10, 20, 30 years and have never filed a claim. Rates never go down, they're always going to go up. But what can we do to help you in your time of need? Well, what we're going to do is get your claim paid at the best possible settlement. We only get claim paid if your claim is paid. If your claim is paid, we have no fee for our service. So we work strictly on contingency. We're only going to get paid if your claim is paid. And we're going to get you the best possible settlement for your claim. not everything is a claim. So if we're out at your property and find that there's not enough damage to exceed the deductible, we'll go over that with you. If there's no damage, we love to hand out the certificate of good condition to protect your home from any future issue. But at the end of the day, we're relationship oriented. We're here to help you and serve you, whether it be looking at something and there's no issue or there is an issue. At the end of the day, we're here to serve you and your communities and your homeowners. And it all starts with just having us take a look at your home or your damage or your issue. And we're happy to help.
Is it all right if I ask a few questions?
Sure.
All right.
Here's some of the other claims that we help with, by the way. Not just hurricane, but everything ranging from tornadoes, plumbing issues, AC issues, mold, fire, construction defects, hail damage, any sort of damage that you can think of. It's something that we can help with.
Oh. Well, that looks good.
Yeah.
All right. So just a quick question. How
Yes,
far
ma'am.
in advance should people call the phone number that was posted to make an appointment for the free inspection?
I would say at least maybe 2 days. Usually we
Oh.
can get somebody out right away to anywhere in the state. But maybe just a day or two would be good, just so we can look at some options, where it's at, how many people need to get out there, etc.
Now, does the free inspection also include the roof?
Yes, we look at everything, roof, windows, doors, exteriors, fences, sheds, gazebos, anything that's insured on the property, other structures, decks. If it's insured on the property, we inspect it, and then we move into the interior and we do full interior, ceilings, HVAC, plumbing. We check any attic or crawl space, and then all the interiors.
Oh, wow, that's a lot. Now, what
Yes.
about for the community as a whole? Would you inspect the common areas?
Yes, we do, and we do that quite often, especially for Associa. We'll do an inspection of all of the areas that are insured under the association policy. For
Okay.
example, like a clubhouse, the pool area, bathrooms, offices, playgrounds, tennis courts. Those are things that we typically see covered under the association. Whichever sort of structures are in your community under the association's policy, we'll look at all of that. If everything looks good, we'll issue that community a certificate. If we find any issues, we'll bring them to your attention.
Oh, okay. So now would we need to have our policies, insurance policies out so the person can review them when they arrive?
It helps. I like to do that personally. What I like to do is look at the damages and then sit down with the client and go over the policy. And usually I will not just go over the policy in relation to the damage, but I found that most people have not been through their policy, nor has anyone ever gone through it with them. So usually I take that time as also an educational opportunity to go through the full policy with the client and look at things, go over things with them that they may not be aware is in the policy, show them how to read it, what things mean. So it's not just, looking at the policy and saying, oh, this is covered or it's not covered. We usually go through the policy and give recommendations, advice, and feedback.
Oh, wow, that's really good. So then you would spend a considerable amount of time with a homeowner doing all that, obviously.
Yes, we normally block out a 2-hour window for an inspection. It doesn't normally take that long, but potentially it can take up to that long.
Okay.
I've had some clients that want to get real deep into the policy and we'll sit there for a very long time, and I'm happy to do that. I've
Oh,
had
that's
others that try to read it on their own and they're like, yeah, I just need to know if it's covered or not. So it really
well,
depends. It really
yeah.
depends on the client or the customer, but really that time is for us to go over the policy with you, make sure you understand it, how to use it, what it's for. If we see anything detrimental, we can bring it to your attention so that it can be revised prior to a storm happening or a claim happening. Sometimes we can give recommendations on things that can be added to improve the policy or improve your position before something happens.
No, that's really important because I know I'd get this inspection done for my home, but on the same day, I'd also do the community as the HOA
Okay.
president. So I have that
Yeah.
policy and everything, so I can make that
Perfect.
statement too. Well, that sounds
Perfect. And Sometimes they don't have it, and that's okay. We can always do the inspection, and then when when the homeowner obtains the policy, they can send it to us afterwards. Whichever's easiest.
Oh, good. Does anybody else have any questions that they'd like to ask?
Yes, I do. You talked about contingency fees.
Yes.
I'm assuming that the contingency fee is the actual payout that you negotiated minus what the insurance company offered to begin with.
Correct.
And
We
it's
build a
based on
pretty
that.
comprehensive claim package. It's going to include a lot of things. We get the claim settled. When the claim is settled and paid, we work off of a contingency. It ranges, the state sets it at minimum 10% for hurricanes, 20% any other type of claim. So the state sets our fee. Depending on the type of claim it is, we apply our fee to the settlement that we deliver.
Okay.
Well, the state of Florida has found through OPAGA, the Office of Public Policy and Government, that when you are represented by your own adjuster, you typically will recover 700% more than filing on your own. So it's pretty advantageous. You're typically going to recover much more than what you would have on your own filing the claim. So essentially, it's going to offset a lot of your out-of-pocket expenses that you would have normally had incurred off of a lowball settlement from the insurance.
Well, that's interesting. All righty. Is anybody?
Another good advantage. So some folks maybe with an older roof or older plumbing systems, typically they're going to get a higher premium from the insurance company. What we found is when we do get the claim settled and that new roof gets put on or the plumbing gets repiped, the premiums actually go down because a lot of policies, not every policy, but a lot of policies have, and this is something we would look at when we do our policy review. Some policies have coverage for bringing things up to code when they're damaged. So obviously getting a brand new roof up to code is going to make you more attractive to your insurance companies versus your 15, 20-year-old roof that just got hit with a hurricane. So what we find is once those things get repaired or replaced and brought up to code, premiums actually tend to go down.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions for Matthew?
I do, Telka. This is Monica. I have a question about the construction versus homeowners. You showed that you provide different type of policies, different type of coverages. We're in the process of having a pool put in, an in-ground pool. What happens in the event a hurricane happens during the construction of the pool? How do you handle that?
I would get in contact with your agent right away so that they're aware that you are constructing a pool. And this way you can get some kind of insurance, whether it be a temporary insurance during construction and then something more permanent once it's fully installed. But they should be able to work out something with you that's covered during the construction process and then after it's fully installed.
Okay,
I would
thank
check
you.
with your agent. Yeah, because for that matter, anytime you're adding something to the property, you would want to make sure you get with your agent to make sure it's added to the policy and gets covered. My mom actually just bought a new shed, and I was like, "Well, make sure you tell the insurance because if it gets damaged, it's not on it's not on the policy." So anytime you're
Yes,
doing an
we
addition,
did talk about that with the insurance carrier, and they also informed us that there's a separate, I guess, separate coverage for the pool and the enclosure.
Yep, and so that's one of the things that I was talking about that is good to know before the hurricane happens, is oftentimes with some companies, insurance companies, they will exclude the enclosure or the pool enclosure. Not all insurance companies do that. So that's a conversation you can have with your agent because enclosures are not cheap. And when a hurricane comes, that's one of the first things to go just because of the support system and it's all screened. So to have an exclusion for a screen enclosure and then to get hit with a hurricane, you could easily be $10,000 to $15,000 out of pocket for an enclosure. So things like your enclosures, your fences, your sheds, your non-attached structures, definitely make sure you have those covered in your policy. If not, you want to make sure that everything's that you have at your home and your property is included in your policy coverage. And we'd be happy to sit down and look at any policy that anyone has and go through and see what's needed or what may need to come out.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. And I'm going to just repeat the phone number where people can call to get that inspection. It's 877-275-0275.
Yes. We have about 100 adjusters all throughout the state. We cover every zip code. We have 5 brick and mortar offices. So there's not a claim or a client we can't get to and help.
Well, sounds good.
And remember, the most important thing is it's free. It doesn't hurt to give us a call and say, hey, can you take a look at this? I'm not sure. It may not be a claim, it may be a claim. But at the end of the day, at least you'll feel better about knowing that it got taken care of, it got looked at, it gave you some peace of mind, and it didn't cost you anything to find out, if it was a problem or not, or if anything can be done about it or not.
I think it's really important also about reviewing a person's insurance policy and possibly adding more to it if necessary. That's
Yes.
important.
The insurance company.
Any questions, Eric, or are you good?
No, what is that? What's the phone number again? Thank you, John.
If you see this.
Yes, sir. It's 877-275-0275.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. We have English, Spanish speakers in our office. So for any bilingual residents or Spanish speaking residents, we are a bilingual company. These are some of our offices ranging from Orlando, Tampa, Melbourne is our main office. But yeah, the most important thing is it's free. Let us come out, take a look at what you got going on, give you a certificate if there's no issues, go through your policy, make sure everything looks good, or give you some advice if anything needs to get updated.
All righty, then if there are no other questions, we'll adjourn this presentation, and thank you so much. I think this was really educational.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you and your community. If you ever have any interest in the future, we do present on water damage, plumbing, insurance rates. We'd be happy to do any sort of presentation in the future that